Okay. Um, so just flow. Okay. So my name is Colton Jones, and I come from right now Los Angeles, California. Um, I am 23 years old, recent graduate from Syracuse University, and I studied pre-med there. I studied to be a doctor because in the Western frame of mind and thinking, I thought that I wanted to heal people. I wanted to heal the world in many ways, and I thought that being a doctor was the best way to do that. But being in university, I realized how beautiful and expansive science is, but how also limiting and restricting it is at times as well. And so I decided to take my medicine and healing beyond just a Western frame and notion of healing and reach into realms of emotionality and spirituality, psychology, psychotherapy, herbalism, shamanic medicine, and things like this. So I've arrived at the point where I am today now, and it has been a journey indeed. I come here last year, and I didn't come with any intentions of doing any medicines or things like this, but I found ayahuasca, or ayahuasca found me rather. It was a very clear calling. Even before coming here, something larger called me to this land and to this space. And I didn't know what that was until I finally got here, and I saw all of these tribes, and I saw all of these relatives that I hadn't met in this lifetime, but that it seemed that I had met before. It's really hard to explain, but it's a certain type of feeling that can't really be described, and I feel that here last year. And then when I take the medicine, it shows me the things within it shows me so much. It shows me like a realm that I didn't even know was possible, a realm that I only dreamed of. And I see spirit. Spirit communicates with me. It teaches me. It shows me like the things that my human needs to learn, like the physical part of me that's very attached to all the experiences that I had and who I think I am and these things like that. And also really important lessons for my being and my spirit to learn, and the part of me that is infinite, that is remembering why it came down to this earth in this lifetime to begin with, the part of me that simply wants to heal the world in many ways. And in university, I've always been like somewhat of an environmentalist, right? I've always like really felt a strong calling to environmentalism simply because like saving the planet seems like a given, like it is that one thing that we all share. We are all inhabitants and children of this earth. Like without this earth, there is no us, and not only like us as human beings, but life, which can be like contradicted in many ways too, right? Because there was life way before human beings, and there could very well be life way after human beings. We are we have lots of ego, we humans, and we think that we are just like the center and the top of this totem pole, and it's just not the case. And we see that with so many different things in ecology and in the ecosystems, how species work in a circle, like in a web. It's not like one superior. Yes, like there's a predator and there's prey, but there's always like a larger cycle of being and existing. And so as humans, I feel like we've forgotten that. And not only forgotten, but we have, it seems, tried our hardest to destroy the very thing that is keeping us alive. We are destroying land. We see that with deforestation in the Amazon. We see that with deforestation all around the world. We are destroying the waters. We're poisoning them with chemicals and with fluoride in the United States. We are poisoning the air with chemicals and chemtrails and carbon dioxide and all these other gases. We are really constricting the very vessels of nature and creation. And so I find that it is very important for us beings who have come down here to this earth at this time to be very in tune with what our mission is in this evolution. Because I think that we have two choices, right? I think that we either all or most of us wake up as humanity and lead to awakening and evolution, or we devolve and we destroy. And I think that there's only two. There are many things that exist outside of us that want us to think that there's so many problems that are so bigger than us, that they're larger than we can tackle, that it's impossible to deal with. but that constriction is how that mentality keeps going, you know. And so I think that to be on the side of evolution, to be on the side of healing, you know, I think many of us want to exist there, you know. Some of us are more conditioned to the other system than others, you know. Some of us have gotten more hardened and more thickened, and our spirit more distant from us. But I think that most beings just want like love, and just want like nurturing, and just want caring and compassion and kindness, and to live however they want to live. You know, I feel that like everyone deserves to live how they choose to live, as long as it doesn't oppress or belittle any others' communities or groups' existence. So be it, you know. But I think that many have gotten conditioned and hardened into this system that like that is just destined for doom. And so I think that many of us come to these places, we just travel, you know, just to travel and get outside of your routine, get outside of like the 9 to 5 or whatever it is that you do consistently, really shakes up the system, it shakes up the being, and it shows different possibility. Like simply with an experience, any new experience, you are like expanding your consciousness. And so I think that with this expansion of consciousness, it's very, you get this world view of sorts, you know, you see that like we are all connected, whether we're on this part of the world or that part of the world. Like many of us are sharing similar stories, or sharing different intentions, same intentions in different places, you know. We come to this beach, and why we all seem so familiar is because like something larger brought us to this beach, you know. It's a very powerful time to be alive. I see this with, and I hear this from many of the teachings that I learned from my elders, and many of the prophecies that speak of these times. It's a very powerful time to be alive, and it's because like Mother Nature, Father Sky, whatever you call the divine being that that is larger than us, you know, many religions have called it many different things, but they all are talking about the same thing. They call him Allah, or Creator, or Wankantakan, or Uchimaka, or like all of these other names for this divine being and presence. I think that they have sent their greatest warriors to be on this planet at this time, because we have a hell of a task ahead of us to heal this planet. But I know it's possible, you know. And just by thinking it's possible, you create the possibility of it being possible. Because like to say that the world can't be changed, to say that it's too big for us, to say that it will never be the same as like creating that reality. And I learned this, you know, just with quantum physics. You know, the perception is like creating this all. And I'm a science nerd, you know. I'm a science nerd in many different ways. And when I learned this, I learned that everything is possible. Everything is possible. Only your mind is telling you that these things aren't possible. And so, yes, this is why I'm here. I think that it's very important to share these medicines, these sacred medicines. I know the psychedelic medicines are misunderstood in many ways by Western science, and they're just starting to catch up. They're just starting to see how MDMA can treat post-traumatic stress disorder, and how mushrooms can treat addiction, and how we don't need these chemicals that man tries to recreate from naturally occurring substances in nature. Like nature has everything figured out, and it has for many generations, far before science. You know, before science there was magic. You know, and so I think that it's very important to remember that magic, remember the shamanic essence in the world, and don't forget that, because science would have us think that like science is the truth, but science knows that like nothing can be completely proven to be law. You know, very few things are considered law, and everything else means that there is just a small percentage that I think can be false. So it's all just theory when you think about it. But I think these sacred medicines really help us in these times to wake up. The psychedelic experience has helped me very much. It has helped me expand my consciousness, whether it be through ayahuasca, or it be through peyote, or through any other sacred medicines. I think that they are here to guide us. And I have done these sacred medicines in a not so sacred way, right? I have taken LSD and I have fun, and I take mushrooms and I go out and I have fun and I expand my consciousness, but not in a ceremonial way. You know, it wasn't until I come here that I see the power and the significance of ceremony. When I come here last year, I am reminded the importance of ceremony, the importance of going into a medicine journey with intention and with purpose, and to really remember. I think a huge part of the theme is remembering. Remembering why we are here, remember our purpose, remembering what it is that we can give to the larger creation that is present, what we can give to our fellow relatives, what we can give to this earth. I think a huge part of that is remembering, because when we come into this world as a child, we come here very innocently. Children are just like running around and playing and filled with so much joy and so much life and so much innocence, and throughout time that is hardened and thickened, and we say you're acting like a child or this and that, but I think the child is a very sacred being. It's like the being that is closest to the realm outside of the physical realm, and so they are naturally coming in here with much more wisdom than we have, us beings who have been on this earth for more time. That this thought of moving in ceremony and seeing the sacred plants as ceremony, I think is very powerful and beautiful and really good for remembering. And then to take what you learn in that realm out into this world, out into this world where we have to apply the things that we are learning in the medicine realm. Because I know folks who just constantly take the medicines and continue to go deeper and want to go deeper and want to take more and more. And I think this is there's a place that my grandfather tells me where you get to limiting returns, where you don't get as much out of it as you would normally, because I believe you're exhausting the medicine. The medicine shows you, but I think it's up to the being to go out and manifest what the medicine is showing. At a certain point, there's certain people. I know the Lakota, I spent some time in Standing Rock, and the Lakota, they don't take any psychoactive medicines. They sit in sweat lodge and they have other ceremonies, but nothing psychoactive. And they are some of the most spiritually in tune people I've met, as a collective, as a community. And so,
can you tell us a bit about the Standing Rock?
Standing Rock. Oh yes, this place is so beautiful. Do you want me to give you the backstory of it?
Yeah, a little bit of backstory.
Sure. Okay, so Standing Rock Sutra. So there was this pipeline, the Dakota Access Pipeline, and originally it was supposed to go through Bismarck, which is a largely white and largely affluent area in North Dakota. And they say, no, we don't want this pipeline. We fear that it will rupture and poison our drinking water. And so they say, okay, we move it to the Indian reservation. And then when these people say, no, we don't want this pipeline, we fear it'll rupture and it'll poison our drinking water, they say, no, it's fine, this will be state-of-the-art material, this will be top of the line, it won't rupture. Mind you, Enbridge, the company who is in charge of Dakota Access Pipeline, is the most polluting, they're known for the most pipeline breaks. I think they had 200 last year. And largely these pipelines don't go reported. When pipelines rupture, it's not like we're hearing it on the front page of the news. We hear about the big ones like the BP oil spill, but these are very common, and so it's really quite bizarre. It's they're trying to, in ways, oil is so old. It's such an old structure. There's so many renewable forms of energy that are showing themselves, that have been showing themselves for many generations, but we think of Nikola Tesla. We think of beings who have figured out how to harness energy from this earth to provide for everyone, but this isn't the most profitable. And we see that in activism, when you reach into the roots of the problems of humankind, they all boil down to very few structures and entities and beings and companies, and you see that in oil companies and pharmaceutical companies and in the industrial agriculture business. A lot of these companies control the world in many ways, and are controlled by people who control the world. And so this is why something like Standing Rock is very dangerous to the status quo, because it reaches into the oil companies being, and they don't like this. And so Standing Rock, the Sioux tribe, which is known for their resistance, known for, back in the days of Sitting Bull and back in the days when the Wild Wild West, as they told us as a kid, the Lakota were tribes who fought back very well. They're known for winning the Battle of Little Bighorn against General Custer. like one of the most iconic wins in the Indian Wars, American Indian Wars. And so this just seems like we're Standing Rock, a continuation of that, you know, like in this generation's form. But these people, tribes from all over the world, over 300 tribes from all over the world, like gather on the sacred land in random North Dakota, you know, there's not much out there but Great Plains, and people come in ceremony, you know. I've been an activist for years, but I've never seen activism that is ceremony, people praying and people talking and gathering around the sacred fire and sharing meals and sharing stories and sharing music. And Standing Rock's intense on the front lines, you know, like seeing militarized police forces, you know, attacking people, beating people, macing people, protecting private interests over human life. And, you know, the people who have gathered in Standing Rock are not simply protecting their drinking water. They're protecting the drinking water of over 18 million people, or maybe it's 8 million, I think it's 8 million, who live downstream, you know, who aren't there, who have no idea that their drinking water is at risk. And this often becomes the case. And it's often indigenous people and people of color who are fighting for, like, the rights of all of us, you know. But the oppressors, the system, have done a very good job at disconnecting it, like, so having people think, well, it's not happening to me right now, so like it's okay, it's distant from me. The illusion of separation, you know, that they have, like, very beautifully put into the consciousness of the masses. But Standing Rock shows the potential that we all have to awaken, you know. Standing Rock provided a spark of hope. It showed that, like, hey, we're not just going to, like, stand by idly and watch you destroy this earth. We are idle no more, you know. People risked their lives. People dropped everything that they were doing and went to Standing Rock. Like, people dropped their livelihoods. I know people who didn't go to work, you know, people who left their homes, people who left their jobs, to be and stand for the sacred waters, to get arrested, to be charged with potential felonies and years in prison. One woman had her arm almost blown off. Another woman is blind in her eyes. People are leaving with lots of trauma and lots of things. But overall, it has lit a fire in many hearts, not only in Standing Rock but around the world, where people see that this kind of activism is possible. You know, like, when I originally learned about environmentalism, I learned that I thought it was just like saving plastic, you know, like recycling and like limiting your drinking water, getting a water bottle, you know, and things like this. But when I realized that environmentalism ties deeply in with, like, indigenous wisdom, and it ties deeply into, like, remembering our connection to the earth. And environmentalism ties into racism, and it ties into, like, socialism, and, like, and all of these, like, ills of the world, you know, we can see them intersect with environmentalism, and it becomes ever more apparent for us to really tune in as a collective and as individuals to what's going on in the world, you know, and not think that it's separate from us, because the earth is one living entity, one living being, and so to reduce her from that is to not show her in all of her form and her beauty and grace and power. So yes, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe you can say a little bit about what you do when you're working on yourself. How you live your life each day.
Yes.
Aside from the medicines.
Yeah.
Like how you balance yourself, how you keep centered.
Yes.
How you treat others as a means to treat yourself.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I think. Because it's gonna do the loop thing. Yeah. So I think that it's very important to tune to the, like, outer evolution and things that are happening, but also remembering that, like, what's happening inside of us is a microcosm for what's happening outside of us. And so, like, a huge part of the journey that has brought me here today is my, like, tuning into my own healing journey. It was like not only surfacing the trauma and the suffering and the pain and the fear and the doubt and insecurities and all of these, like, these things that were stuck around from childhood, you know, that had been, like, beaten into me or conditioned into me, or, like, just experienced as a child that have stuck around into my adulthood, to seeing that, like, the attachments that we carry with us, the attachments to our past that like are walking with us in our day-to-day lives, and by simply surfacing those things, acknowledging them and like seeing them for what they are, like for so much of the time I thought that I could like hide away from my darkness, hide away from my fears and all of these things, but when you push things away, they just go deeper into the darkness to like be fed by other things, and so I remember that we are not just like the yin and the yang. It teaches us that like we are light and dark. There's a flow between the two, like what is darkness but having like something like light to compare it to, you need the duality. And I think so many people leave out the healing journey, leave out their own personal healing because maybe it's difficult. No, it is difficult. It's very difficult. Like it's difficult to see yourself sometimes, and it's difficult to have to do the hard work, but it's so important, like no one said it would be easy, but they just promised us that it would be worth it. And I think that like it's so important to tune into our inner evolution, to continue unpacking like the trauma, the fear, to continue like ripping away these layers of who we think we are, and to like in the ripping away arrive more and more into who we really are, and to not be attached to like to past selves or to present selves, to know that things are constantly changing. Buddhism teaches us this. It's like the impermanence of things, the Buddha says like there will be suffering, but also the cessation, like to remove suffering is like to remove the attachment to the suffering, it's like, yes, people hurt us, yes, people are hurting the world, but I think that forgiveness is such a powerful tool. Like forgiveness, I heard this quote yesterday. It said, forgiveness is like giving yourself the space to heal, or like the potential to heal. And I think forgiveness inside of ourselves, forgiving ourselves, forgiving the people who have wronged us, who have hurt us. And then also like in the larger scheme of things, forgiving the people who are destroying this earth. I think this is powerful medicine, because like you will never be able to fight fire with fire. You will never be able to win a revolution, fighting war between people who have like known war, who have fought many wars. I think that you fight fire with water, and you don't even fight the fire. The water just like does its own thing, and it naturally can smolder the fire. And so I think that and the water element is like reminds us of fluidity. It reminds us that we are fluid. We are constantly changing and evolving. The water, like if you have a cup and you pour water in it, and the water takes the form of a cup. And if you change it to like a square template, it'll become square. And so we get to choose what we want, how we want to form ourselves as water. We are 70% water, and on the outside we have these fleshy beings, but on the inside we're largely 70% water. So like it's up to us like what we want to create with that water, what we choose to form out of that water. And so yeah, I think that to show up to the inner healing practice, the more you hear yourself, the more you can heal the world. I've known this, books have shared this with me, that you can't, the most you can do for another human being is work on yourself. And I've seen this, at first I questioned it, like, how does this make sense? Like, I have to help people, but like, as you help yourself, you're helping people, because you are literally like becoming the embodiment of that which you choose to teach. And so by doing that, you don't even have to speak with words, you speak with being, you speak with the experience of your being. And it's a very powerful medicine, this. And so, I've learned that as I've healed myself, I've started to heal my relationships with people. I've gotten more tuned into like my purpose here, because I have tuned into like myself. And so it's scary at first, right? But I've learned that scared is just sacred, a little jumbled up. And we just have to switch a little bit of those words, and we arrive at sacred, and this is powerful medicine, because we are all sacred beings. We are here. And not like, I think religion has attempted to teach us sacredness, and I think it has in many ways. It has shared stories, but it's also been this excuse for people to separate themselves, which is completely like ironic when you think of religion as something that is attempting to show what the meaning of creation is, and the meaning of why we're here, so I think that just reconnecting to the sacred, seeing the sacred in the land, seeing the sacred in the water, in like our everyday interactions, seeing the sacred in simply being alive, will provide a lot of space for us on this healing journey. Yeah. So,
That's fantastic.
thank you.
Thank you so much for
Yes.
your time, your passion, your joy, your love.
Thank
Wonderful words of wisdom.
I'm very appreciative. Thank you for having me and letting me help you with this.